Employees should act like owners, and owners should act like employees. I feel like that kind of mentality has helped push our business ahead. And I think it gave Glenn a level of comfort as the company grew to allow me to grow with it in my position.
Welcome, everybody, back to The Long Game. I'm Josh Parks, CEO and founder of Infinity Home Services. I'm joined today by an incredible man, Adam Fedale. I met him probably almost 2 years ago right now, and we became partners just about a year ago or so. He is an incredible leader. He worked with his family and built an incredible business that's got roots in Delaware and had built an outstanding reputation there. Started as a small business and have become a regional player. And so I'm happy to have him on the pod today. We're going to learn a little bit about how he got involved in the business and how they've grown to be such a great business today, and also what makes them such a great leader. So welcome, Adam. How are we doing today?
Thanks, Josh. Doing great. Appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be on here, and hopefully I can share something that resonates with someone else out there.
So before we hit record, I'm not sure, you had mentioned you were in Philly. So are you a fan of the Eagles?
I am fan of the Eagles, fan of the Phillies. So we had a tough weekend this weekend.
Yeah, tough loss. The Broncos, man, they came storming back, huh?
That was a surprise. I mean, they were being competitive early on, but the Eagles are such a second half team, so we thought they were gonna pull it out, but they weren't able to do it. So yeah, tough game.
From my seat, I'm not a fan of either team, so it was a good game for me. Sorry about that. Well, Adam, tell me. I think audience probably want to know a little bit about yourself. Maybe tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got involved in at Fedale.
Yeah, sure. So a little bit about myself. Something interesting. I usually share. I'm one of 10 kids, so I come from a big family. My grandfather was a roofer and a paver. My uncle was a roofer, and my dad was in sales. So pretty white collar sales, printing and things like that. So growing up, I kind of had some construction and some of the sales. Well, we worked for my uncle, worked for a guy from church who ran a commercial roofing company growing up. And yeah, that's kind of where it started. On the more personal side, I guess, married and 4 young kids, and they're a joy, man. So yeah, a lot of blessing, a lot to be thankful for.
Yeah, 4 kids as a housewife. I've got 4 as well, and I've got 1 biological or foster daughter, so 5.
Wow,
that's a lot of kids. You actually, when we were talking about a partnership, you and I spent a lot of time talking about kids and trying to raise them the right way and teaching perseverance, and because our kids aren't going to quite have the same struggles that we had growing up. And so that's I really enjoyed those conversations I had with you. So
yeah, it's you would love this. Coming up, we're doing like a training for our sons. There's 5 dads and 7 sons, all between the age of like 12 and 14, and we're doing a like a self-defense class with them. So trying to teach them, hey, you want to avoid fights at all costs, maintain the peace, but in the event that it's unavoidable, this is how you defend yourself. So we have like a local Golden Glove boxer named Dave Tiberi, and he's just got such a big heart. So volunteer, like not even charging us for it. He's putting on a 2-hour class and teaching the boys how to defend themselves. So that's coming up the end of October. It's pretty exciting.
That sounds really exciting. You told me about this adventure you took with your boys, like to kind of turn them into men. And I don't know if I told you this, but my 16-year-old, he just turned 17, went to Canada for a 42-day canoe trip where they covered 1,000 kilometers. Got 3 food drops. It was pretty brutal adventure for him, but he loved it, and he came back. I mean, he left a stout young man. He came back a real full-grown man. He could take on the world. I know he's never done roofing like we have, but he's done a lot. He's done a lot. So
yeah, you go through.
Hey,
when
you were working with a commercial company, what did you guys put down? Were you single ply or were you hot mop?
Nah, all single ply, TPO, EPDM. That was really the bulk of it. A little mod bit, torch down, cold applied here and there, but yeah, mostly EPDM, TPO.
Nice. Were you a hand welder?
Yeah, it's funny, man. Starting off, I working with my uncle, we were all residential. So on the residential side, I thought that's where you were going. I thought you were going to say hand nailer. That's all we did. We didn't have nail guns back then. So that was like back in the day, and I'm aging myself a little bit here, but if you hand nail two square a day, that was a good day. Mm.
When I first started, they had, I mean, we didn't hand nail. We had these little Bostage. They're like 900-pound guns. I mean, you had to have a bicycle in order to, I mean, they were such clunky, and they just drove. I mean, it was cold. They drove like right through the roof, like through the deck. They were
Oh
so
yeah.
powerful. Yeah. Yeah. Those were not good installs back then, unless you really had those gas settings set the right way. But
Oh yeah.
thank
And the
God they fixed
temperature
that.
has to do with it too. If it's cold out, you're good. It'll kind of lay on the top. Once it gets hot out, middle of the day, those nails are like shooting right through. So
Yeah. So your brother Glenn started the business. When did you kind of jump into the fold, and when did you even start thinking about it?
yeah, yeah. So 2003 is when Glenn started the business. Little background on that. He became the chief project manager of the commercial roofing outfit that we were in. Great friends, still tight with the owner of that company. He comes to our Christmas party each year, but he just got so busy, helping out friends on the side, which was in full permission of the commercial roofing company owner that he took the jump. And I still remember when he called me, he was like, "Hey man, I think I'm going to try to go off on my own." And he had just had his first baby, bought a house, and was getting married. And, in my mind, that was just the opposite of stability. And I was like, "You're nuts." But Glenn's always, he's always one that's ready and willing to take calculated risks. And I guess, I had my own kind of version of that. I was working for a Fortune 500 company in sales, and he, pretty early on, I think it was the 2005, right around 2005, he just got so busy with the production and the sales and the bill collecting. I'm sure a lot of roofing company owners out there that are listening can relate to those early days. And he was like, "Man, we could really use some sales help." So that's when I kind of took the leap and joined him. And yeah, early on, man, it was there were some good times. So it was a lot of fun.
When you started selling originally in the home?
Yeah.
Okay. How many sales guys did Glenn have at the time? Were you the first guy in?
Yeah, it was really him, his wife Laura. She was doing like a lot of the billing and things like that. And then my younger brother Alan, he would work with us from time to time in between school and some of the different things he had going on. But it was a pretty small crew. We had two carpenters that were handling like a lot of the repairs and service work, and then some good subs.
So you're one of 10. So Glenn got 30% of the kids in the business. Was that all that reached, or did you get more than that? Yeah. At one point in time.
Well, that's our immediate family. So you like go out from there. My mom's one of eight. So there's cousins and brother-in-laws, and my dad joined us. He's in business development with us now. So all in all, we have 11 family members that work in the business, which makes up about, it's close to 15% of our workforce.
That's in, that's incredible. A lot of companies, I think what's interesting about G Fidel, what you guys have is you see a lot of those family involvements early on in the business. And then oftentimes you see rifts happen and, you see this kind of, unfortunately, you see some families get separated for it, but family seems to fade out of the business, and you guys have seemed to only add to it. What is the dynamic there that makes it's such a great place to work for family?
It's funny you asked that. There was a pastor that texted me yesterday. He's from the Wilmington area, and he said, "Hey, there's a business owner in my church, and he's having some like family, conflict within his business, and he wanted to know if you could connect and kind of share with him how you guys have been able to keep a good culture." So it's a common challenge. There's a lot of, I guess, there's more strings attached than usual, right? When you're in business, there's kind of the professional understanding, and a lot of people see those things as, universal. Like you wouldn't do that in business, or you should do that in business. But when family's involved, it can sometimes jade some of those lines. And honestly, I think what's been really helpful for us is my brother Glenn. and Alan and I try to follow this too. He always set a really good tone when it comes to being generous. So if there's a situation, there's always a gray. And if there's a situation where even if it's not black and white, but it's more on the side of the employee or more on the side of the customer, to be generous with it, to try to put yourself in that person's shoes and, make an effort to understand where they're coming from. And oftentimes when you do that, you can see a little bit of where their perspective is coming from. And then the next time, just try to make sure the expectations are clear. So, so we have this saying around the office, rather than win or lose, it's win or learn. So we've been in business for 2 years now, and we still have win or learn scenarios every day that we go through. So try not to make the same mistake twice.
Well, I think that's an important distinction. You do have a lot of family in the business, but you also run a high performance culture, and you do that through KPIs and through accountability metrics. So you really share with your team, what the expectations are. You share with them what winning looks like, and whether they're a family member or not, they understand what they're being held accountable to. And I think oftentimes, when you grow a family business or small business, you just expect people to know what's in your head and expect people to know what you think you want them to do. And they don't. And I think you guys do a very good job of balancing that gray area, which is being kind and generous to employees who maybe aren't quite there, but also having a real strong line. And hey, this is what we're expecting out of you. And I think that's what you guys do so well.
Thanks. Well, that means a lot coming from you, because I had the opportunity of talking to Infinity, the founding brand, which you obviously started on this past Friday. And anyway, awesome conversation. But I could tell, you guys have a very high culture there. So it means a lot. An unlock for us, on like the family side of things, was shifting from, we were really proud of being a family run culture, but we had an unlock. It was like several years ago at this point, but we said, you know what? Like, while we're proud of being family run and having that like family culture, we actually feel like a better way to describe us is as a team than a family. And we wrote that into our core values. And for anyone out there that doesn't have written core values, I strongly recommend that too, not only for your customers, but for your employees even more. But we wrote that teamwork mentality, and it's great, because everyone knows those dysfunctional families that have like the Uncle Larry that everybody just kind of deals with. And like, you don't want that to describe your company. Like, if someone is not performing at the company, you want to work with them, restore them. Like, hey, how can we get you back up to the performance where we want you to be? But if that's not working, then you have a hard decision to make. And that was a part of our reputation that we had to shake off, that we weren't willing to make those hard decisions. But I feel like once we acknowledged that, and then we made that change to our core values, everyone has really done an excellent job of that.
Yeah. And frankly, based on the size of your family, you don't have a recruiting issue. I mean, you're half Delaware. So you guys just go right back to the well every time.
No, you're right. Well, that's where I was going. I mean, to circle back to that, so it's roughly 30 cousins, and then my dad and mom at this point just had their 34th grandchild. So I think we're good from a recruiting standpoint for this generation and the next generation.
I love it. Yeah. Easy work on the HR team. So
that's right.
We'll be good on the recruiting team.
That's right.
So you come on as a sales guy, Adam, and working alongside Glenn, you bring Alan in first part-time and then kind of full-time. How has your role shifted, and how did you kind of elevate to the top? What was it that your brothers, what was it Glenn saw in you, or that Alan saw in you and the team saw in you, that kind of put you as their leader?
Yeah. It's interesting. There's this one job, and it wasn't even while I was working for Glenn. It was when I was working for the commercial roofer with Glenn. And there was downtime on the project. We were waiting on supplies to show up. And I felt guilty being on the clock and not doing anything. So a lot of the guys were just kind of sitting down, chopping it up on the roof. And I was like, I got to do something. So I climbed down the ladder and I'm like picking up trash. Some of the trash isn't even ours. And Glenn, like, leans over the side of the flat roof. He's like, "What are you doing down there?" And him and I joke about that sometimes. And there's an old saying, employees should act like owners and owners should act like employees. In effect, as employees, we always want to kind of have that like ownership mentality and let's not waste, let's be efficient. And then of course, as owners, we're not above the law, right? So we want to be acting like employees and, showing up and not on the golf course every day and so on and so forth. And I feel like that kind of mentality has helped push our business ahead. And I think it gave Glenn a level of comfort as the company grew to allow me to grow with it in my position. So my track was really building the sales team. So going from a estimator to a senior estimator where I was kind of helping train some of the new estimators that we were hiring on. And then once it got to a point where it was, okay, we need to manage all of these salespeople, I then escalated or elevated to a sales manager role. And then we had some moving around of leadership at the company around the 2017 timeframe. And that's when we started to interview for a new CEO. And we considered, people from the outside. I think we interviewed over 15 people for the position. And Alan and I, after performing the interviews, we decided that, what, this is something that we can take on our own. So I took the position of CEO, and my brother Alan assumed the role of COO, and that's wow, 8 years ago at this point. So definitely a sense of inadequacy going into it, but
what strikes me about you, I think you do just such a good job leading kind of through other people. It's about, the kind of the clarity, that accountability and trust that you've built. And I think when you do it that way, you set the direction and then you let your team run with it. That creates, confidence, and that really creates a scalable organization. There's a great book by Liz Wiseman called Multipliers. I'm not sure if you've ever read it before, but it's an exceptional book. It really kind of defines what a leader who's a multiplier does. And that's basically making everybody around them stronger, smarter, kind of amplifying the intelligence of your team and the capabilities of your team. And then there's diminishers who, and it's oftentimes unintentional, but they kind of drain the energy of the room. They feel like they have to be the smartest person in the room all the time. And they kind of stomp out that flame of your staff. And so anyways, it's a great book. It's called Multipliers. I would strongly recommend those who are scaling organizations read that, because I read it, and I probably read it once every 2 years because it's so easy to become a diminisher. You really got to pay attention to it, because it's like, I'm starting to lean in some of those behaviors where you want to have your hands in things. And so no matter what scale your organization is, it's definitely a good book to refresh and bring it back. Again, Adam, I think you do such an excellent job of that. So back to G Fedale, you guys are growing. You're the CEO. The business is doing well. When did you guys seriously start thinking about maybe a partnership?
yeah, that's it's a good question. So honestly, what was one of the drivers for, I would say, going back to 2023 timeframe would probably have been it. And if I had to narrow down what the two or three things that really brought us to start to consider it, narrow those down, I would say number one was we wanted to just make the company better. That's just constantly what we're after. I feel like for us, growing is important. Like we want to beat last year's numbers and we want to become more profitable, right? Like we want to do the project better, make less mistakes, get more 5-star reviews. So we're like constantly wanting to improve. And man, we have been jammed up on this, like not just CRM search, but trying to join all the different technologies at the company together. I remember going to a qualified remodeler event. They had, this one presenter there, and I think he had like 32 software programs integrating together. And I was like, man, that sounds like a nightmare. So that was one of the drivers for us. We were like, you know what? This is going to be a big lift for us. Like we're roofers, and we're learning the marketing side, the HR side, but like when it comes to finding a system that's really going to fit our needs, we feel like joining with a partner that's able to help with that is going to be a big lift. And, we've been partnered for under a year, and you guys have already been a huge help with that. And there's more, more changes coming down the line, and you guys have been super supportive in that. So anyway, that was number one. The second reason was we we had heard of kind of the private equity stuff going on in the industry. So we started to research it. I read two books by an author named Adam Coffey, and I strongly recommend both of them. They're short, easy reads. One is called The Private Equity Playbook, and the other is called The Exit Strategy. And one of the ideas that I pulled from it that drove our decision making was he talks about it not just being like hey, you make a decision and you go to transaction tomorrow, but really considering a longer term plan where you're making the decision of who you're going to partner with, and then you're with them for 3, 5, 7 years. I mean, hopefully you're with them for as long as you're working at the company and in business, but on the shorter term than that, 3, 5, 7 years down the road, because that company that you partner with is then going to potentially partner with a new backer at some point, and it's a long-term game. So we were following projections from a projections company called ITR, and they talked about how in the early 2030s, there may be a downturn in the economy. And we concluded, hey, we want to stay ahead of that. We want to partner with someone, give them time to kind of build their company up and hopefully help them do it and be there for that second turn or second bite of the apple, as they call it. The third thing that drove us to consider making the decision was really our people. So, some of you out there listening may be kind of, chuckling to yourself right now, because there's two sides to that, right? Like there's a lot of company owners that may think to themselves, oh man, I would never want to sell the company or partner with a bigger company because of my people. But for us, it was the same motivation, but the opposite idea. We felt like we are in a very volatile industry of roofing. And if we could partner with a larger company that would be more stable and offer a better overall future for our people, as long as the culture was aligned, we would be doing our people a big favor by doing that. And we found that to be true. At Transaction, we were able to bonus everyone at the company. Everyone at the company was grafted into a stock program. Now, every company, I think, does that a little bit differently, but that was important to us to make that happen for our people. And now they're backed and supported by, you have Josh Sparks as CEO with all of his executive experience. You have head of HR, you have head of marketing, and these are world-class people that my HR manager now has access to, or my marketing manager now has access to. And there's mentorship going on. And anyway, I know private equity and partnership can have a reputation that's not great, but we have found the opposite to be true. It's been awesome. The support, the collaboration. It's just been, I'm going out to visit another roofing company next week that's in the DC market, and they're going to share how they're doing things on the commercial side. It's just been awesome.
All right, I owe you $100, Adam. I appreciate you saying all those kind of things about me and about IHS. I was actually just at Exterior Medics, who you're going to visit last week. So we had a great conversation. They're crushing on the multifamily stuff. So they're excited to have you and the team down. And I love the fact that you talk about growth of people. We've promoted so many people from local brands to our central team, to our regional teams. And it's just opportunity for upward mobility, which is I love. And the fact that we have hundreds of equity holders now at IHS. And so we're creating this, not just an ownership mentality, but an economic interest, real ownership in the company, which is great. So I know you had some anxiety working through. You guys have some charitable roof things you do. And you got a lot of family in the business. So obviously we had a great connection, and we were right there. What was it, ultimately that made IHS stand out compared to some of the other folks you talked to?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I would say the biggest thing that stood out to us about IHS was the alignment, the similarity between companies. And Josh, I don't know if you remember this, but we had you guys out at one point, and we were just kind of going through, hey, here's who we are as a company, and there was a point where you and Ryan started giggling, and I was like, oh, what's the inside joke? And you guys were like, you guys are doing a lot of the same stuff that we're doing, and that's that I think is the biggest difference maker in my mind for anyone out there that is considering partnership. Find that alignment on how you do leadership at your company to how IHS does leadership at their company. We're like a servant leadership company where it doesn't matter what position you're in, you can take out the trash. And I don't want to speak for Josh, but we found alignment there. We found alignment in, keeping a positive attitude, being resourceful and open-minded to problem solving. We found alignment there, honoring your warranties and being dedicated to your customer. I mean, I'm just like going through my core values in my mind. That's like kind of where I'm coming from. And
Adam, I do remember vividly sitting in that little conference room you have, and there's like 11 of us packed in there.
yeah,
And you put the PowerPoint up on the screen, and you were showing us all the
that's
core
it.
values, and you had that. It wasn't engaged. You had some pretty cool interactive
Yeah.
PowerPoint. Yeah, no, that was impressive. And but yeah, I do remember that because Ryan and I looked. I'm like, yep, these are our kind of people, and that's
Well,
what matters,
oh, it's huge. And there was another company that I was talking to. I won't say their name, and I don't want to throw them under the bus, but they asked me like, "Hey, what are you? What's your plans after this partnership if were to occur?" And I'm like, "Of course, stay with my people, like stay with the company." And there was kind of like a blank silence on the other end, and I was like, "I think he had some different plans in mind for me." So anyway, yeah, I'm glad to say of the other, 23 brands that are in the organization, like I'm brushing shoulders with all company owners. It's not guys that have been like, you know, leadership has cleaned house or leadership has been cleaned out and new leadership has been plopped in. These are the guys that started it, are running it. And I think that was really important in our opinion for the success of the partnership to work out, because our people, the biggest question they asked as we talked to them about, hey, this is our plan, and what do you think? One of their biggest questions was, are you sticking around as leaders? Anyway, that was very important to us.
I'm gonna share something. I hope you're okay with it, Adam. I think this was posted on we have a leadership group where all the brand leaders are all in one chat, and it's a pretty group gets fired up. And it's pretty good group. But this was posted. It was a customer of yours. It says it was one of your CSRs that said, I just took an estimate and I asked how they heard about us, and the homeowner took a deep breath and explained that her husband had passed away. And right before he did, he made a list of people and companies that he trusted for all the things that needed to be done. And Fedale was one of those companies.
Yeah.
I just, when that came on the chat, I was just so, like, my heart was so filled. It's like, this is who we are. Like, this is what we do. Like, where our mission is to save our communities from unscrupulous contractors. And when you read things like that, you just have to be really proud as the CEO of Fedale and of all your people who are delivering that customer experience.
Oh, there's been a countless number of situations where our sales manager, he went out to a job. The homeowner had just lost his daughter in a tragic accident. He was on hard times financially. And my sales manager said, hey, even if he can't afford to get this repair done, I'd like to cover the cost. I mean, it's just, you can't make this stuff up. And that would be, if you were to ask me in this podcast, what would I tell myself 5 years ago? If there's this like wisdom question ever that you would ask, I think it would be that, like, take the extra time to find people, right, that are aligned with your culture too. Because I didn't have to tell my sales manager, like my CSR that texted that out to her whole group, like, guys, listen to this scenario. One of our, like, I didn't have to tell her to send that. Like, that's just, and the people that don't align with that, don't wait. Like, obviously give them the opportunity to restore them and work with them, but when you sense that it's not going to work, move on, because it really makes a difference in keeping your company with a high culture.
Yeah. You hear people say that you should hire slow and fire fast. You don't hear enough people say you should hire on culture, hire on character, hire the people who are going to represent your company the best. We operate on, what we call the triad. As you know, it's people, customers, and prosperity. It's like if you have great people with great character working for you, they will take care of your customers and they will deliver prosperous results. It's as simple as that. You can't go the other way. You can't engineer your business the other way. It has to start with the people. And I think you guys do an exceptional job of that. I shouldn't ask you too many more philosophical questions because you answered before I could even ask him, Adam. You're so good. But if there was, you've given a lot of great advice, I think, for why Fedale has been so successful, but maybe any other practical takeaways that a listener could apply to their business today, whether they plan on partnering with PE or not. Any good nuggets there you have for them?
Yeah. I mean, that would probably be it. Not to throw too much at them, but just take your time hiring, bring in multiple candidates, get a second opinion from someone else that you trust, call their references, right? Just like those, like if you were to pick up like a dummy's guide to how to do HR, take the time to do that, because that's by far the most important thing. Because when no one else is looking, when no one else is in the building anymore, because it's 6 o'clock on a Friday night, like if that person has a decision to make, you want them to make a good decision. And we've all been there before where you're desperate and you're like, oh, I need a project manager like yesterday. My wife's going to kill me. I got to stop managing these projects. I need someone to do it. So we've all been there, and I know that I can relate to that. But just encourage everyone out there to take the time and hire the right person. And then, of course, on the partnership side, there's going to be a lot of glamour and, things like that are, the fishing lure is dangled out there for you. But take your time, interview, different companies. And in my opinion, you'll, ultimately end up at IHS, but obviously do your due diligence with who you feel like you're the best fit with. And once you've gained that cultural alignment, go with that, because that's going to trump any amount of dollars. That's going to trump anything else. It's how that partnership is going to be down the road. And yeah, that's the most important thing.
Very well said, Adam. I'm going to finish with just a quick round of questions, if you don't mind. What's your coffee order?
Coffee order, hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate? You don't drink coffee?
No.
I would die without coffee. What's your favorite job? What's your favorite job site gear?
Favorite job site gear? It's got to be my sales pamphlet, man. I started off in sales, so some no rip Carhartts and Timberland boots.
All right, your favorite business book, what everyone should read in our business.
I have two. Number one is Isaiah in the Old Testament, and number two is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie, yeah, classic. Something that customers care about more than contractors realize.
I would have to say ownership. So there's a author, motivational speaker out there, Jocko Willink, and he's got a book called Extreme Ownership. And man, I can relate to that. It's really counterintuitive. You're like, oh man, if I take blame for this, it's just going to make me look like a fool. But oftentimes the customer already knows that you're at fault. They're just kind of wondering if you're going to actually admit it. And being honest with your customer and owning those situations where you make mistakes. There's a law out there called the law of positive recovery, and you can actually gain a customer's loyalty better by admitting a mistake than by not having made a mistake on the job at all. And that's good news for us because we're not perfect. So
no, not at all. What's that phrase? It's like great leaders take a little more than their share of the blame and a little less than their share of the credit.
Yeah,
I think that's a good nugget. All right, last one. What's one thing you'd never compromise, no matter how big Fedale gets?
The ability to sell to my cousin, my uncle, my aunt, my mom in good conscience. So we never want to be so cheap where we're cutting corners to have to make a profit, and we never want to be so overpriced where I have to push fear on a customer to sign today. Otherwise, there's no way I'm going to get the job. So we want to remain that reasonably priced, good quality roofer. We certainly are a premium version of that, but that's something I feel like is just critical to our culture.
I love that you said that, and I love that you finished on that. I often get, asked quite often, Adam, people's, our core values are integrity, which is doing what's right when nobody's looking, hard work, which to me is, getting out there. It's being present with a little grit, perseverance, and a sense of ownership and service to your customers and your fellow teammates. So I do think that those core values live. I mean, they are what we are. They're behaviors that define who we are as an organization. And I love that you said that, because when people ask me what integrity stands for, you just say, everybody talks about integrity, right? But I say, can you send a salesperson for your company to your grandmother's house? And are they going to get a good project installed at a competitive price? If you can say yes, you run a good business. Yeah. If you say, well, I gotta talk to my sales guy about, don't sell her those $90 a foot leaf guards because they're not worth it. That's so. Yeah. I'm glad you ended there. But Adam, I know you're a busy man. I really appreciate you taking the time out of the day to chat with me and help out our listeners here who are trying to build a great business, because you guys have definitely done that. So,
yeah, man. No, it was an honor. Happy to do it. And anyone out there, if you want to reach out, adam.fedale@gfedale.com. Any questions, feel free to hit me. I'll give you an unbiased view.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Adam.
All right. Yeah. See you, Josh.
Adam's one of those leaders, he really reminds me that strength doesn't always have to be loud. It can be steady, patient, and really grounded in people. I guess what stood out to me most of all the conversations I had with Adam, both before the partnership and after, is just how intentionally he leads. He really trusts his team. He's really involved with his community, and he really is steadfast to the values that have built Fedale in the very first place. And for that, I really appreciate that. I think it's a great reminder, I would say, that the best leaders aren't just building companies, they're really building the people, because that's what makes great companies. When you build people, the company, it just takes care of itself. So here's my quick takeaway for the week. Look for one place where you can lead just a little bit quieter, listen just a bit more, trust a bit deeper, or maybe empower someone else to take the next step without your tentacles into it. That's how we grow teams that last, frankly. So try that out. Let me know how it works out. And until next time, take care.